You see a Victorian home for $40,000 on Zillow for bedrooms, original hardwood floors, a wraparound porch that looks like it belongs in a Nancy Meyers movie. You think you found a gem. You actually found a crime scene C. While everyone's doom scrolling Zillow crying about million-dollar shoe boxes in Austin, there's a shadow market happening in places your GPS warns you about. Towns where you can buy a brick mansion for the price of a Honda Civic. Towns where the property taxes are lower than your monthly coffee budget. Towns where affordable housing comes with a side of bulletproof glass, which, by the way, isn't included, but there's a catch. Actually, 10 of them. Because some of these dirt cheap deals come with murder rates that rival war zones, police departments that stop showing up, and neighbors who sleep in bathtubs to avoid stray bullets. This isn't surface level, and trust me, you're not ready for what's next. We're counting down 10 US towns where the housing is suspiciously cheap, and the crime is suspiciously not mentioned in the listing, ranked by how likely you are to regret clicking schedule a tour. The math doesn't add up. Let's break it down. Number 10, Danville, Illinois. Danville, Illinois will sell you a 3-bedroom Victorian with a detached garage for $38,000. That's not a down payment, that's the whole house. We're talking original crown molding, a basement you could turn into a home gym, and a backyard big enough to forget you live in a place where industry went to die. For the price of a moderately equipped Toyota Camry, you can own property in the heart of the Midwest. Sounds like the American dream, right? Wrong. It's the American nightmare with a fresh coat of paint. Let's talk about what Zillow conveniently leaves out of the listing description. Danville's violent crime rate is 2.5 times the national average, the property crime rate. Nearly double. According to FBI crime data, your odds of being a victim of violent crime here are 1 in 68. For context, the national average is 1 in 127. The city has seen consistent spikes in aggravated assaults, and the police department, already understaffed, has a response time. That makes pizza delivery look like emergency services, so why is it so cheap? Danville was a manufacturing powerhouse until it wasn't, when General Motors and other factories packed up. They took 40% of the jobs with them. What's left is a population that's shrunk by nearly a third since the 1980s. A median household income of $34,000, and entire blocks of abandoned homes that have become magnets for squatters. Drug activity and arson. You're not buying a deal, you're buying a front row seat to economic collapse. One post I found put it perfectly. Bought a house here for $25,000 thinking I was a genius. First week, someone stole my AC unit. Second week, my neighbor got robbed at gunpoint. Third week, I installed security cameras. They stole those too. Danville giveth, and Danville taketh away. But wait, there's more. Beyond the crime, Danville is a food dessert. The nearest full-service grocery store is a 20-minute drive for some neighborhoods. Lead pipes still a problem in older homes. Insurance companies have quietly blacklisted entire zip codes, meaning you might own a house you literally cannot insure. And good luck selling it. Properties sit on the market for years. Picture this, it's 11 p.m. You're lying in bed in your $38,000 Victorian, and you hear glass breaking somewhere on your block. Could be a car window. Could be a home invasion. You don't know, because the streetlights have been out for 6 months, and the city can't afford to fix them. You reach for your phone to call 911, but you remember the average response time is 45 minutes. So you just wait, listening, wondering if that creaking sound is the old house settling or someone testing your back door. This is Danville After Dark. Would you gamble $38,000 on a house in a town where the cops take longer to arrive than your DoorDash? Yes, no, or only if the house comes with a panic room? Let me know in the comments. And if you think Danville is rough, wait until you see it's angrier. More violent cousin up in Michigan. Number 9, Saginaw, Michigan. Saginaw, Michigan is offering you a 4-bedroom colonial with a 2-car garage for $29,000. $29,000, that's less than a year of rent in most American cities. We're talking solid bones, a real neighborhood, and a mortgage payment that could literally be less than your phone bill. The Zillow photos show charm, the crime statistics show carnage. Saginaw consistently ranks among the most dangerous cities in America per capita. And we're not talking about a big city where the numbers get diluted. Saginaw has roughly 44,000 people, and its violent crime rate is nearly 5 times the national average. According to Neighborhood Scout, you have a 1 in 48 chance of being a victim of violent crime here. The murder rate has, in some years, exceeded that of Chicago on a per capita basis. Let that sink in. A town smaller than most college campuses with a body count that rivals a major metropolis. Saginaw's story is the Rust Belt's greatest tragedy on repeat. Once home to thriving General Motors plants, the city lost over 60% of its manufacturing jobs since the 1970s. What followed was a death spiral. Population loss, abandoned properties, gang activity filling the economic void, and a tax base so eroded that basic services became luxuries. The police department has been cut so many times they've practically become ceremonial. As one former resident wrote, "I grew up in Saginaw. We used to play outside until the streetlights came on. Now, nobody plays outside, period. My mom still lives there in a house she can't sell because nobody wants to buy in a war zone. She keeps a shotgun by the bed and prays every night." Beyond the crime, Saginaw's infrastructure is crumbling. Water quality issues have plagued the region. Entire schools have closed due to declining enrollment and budget cuts. The poverty rate hovers around 35%, meaning your neighbors are struggling, which means property maintenance becomes optional, which means your $29,000 home is surrounded by decay. Try getting a home equity loan when the appraiser is too scared to visit. Picture this. You're driving home at dusk through Saginaw's east side. Half the houses are boarded up. The other half have bars on the windows. You pass a memorial of teddy bears and candles on a corner someone was shot there last week. You pull into your driveway, and you notice a car you don't recognize idling at the end of your street. It's been there for an hour. You go inside, lock 3 deadbolts, and eat dinner in silence, wondering if tonight's the night someone decides your house looks like an easy target. Would you buy a $29,000 house in a town where the per capita murder rate rivals Chicago's? Yes, no, or only if I can work remotely from a bunker. Sound off below. And trust me, the next town makes Saginaw look like a gated community. Number 8. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Pine Bluff, Arkansas is practically giving houses away. Pine Bluff has earned the grim distinction of being one of the most dangerous small cities in America. With a population of around 41,000, the violent crime rate is nearly 6 times the national average. You have a 1 in 39 chance of being a victim of violent crime, higher odds than almost anywhere else in the country. The murder rate has fluctuated between 30 and 50 per 100,000 in recent years. To put that in perspective, the US average is about 6. You're more likely to survive a year in some developing nations than you are to go untouched in Pine Bluff. Pine Bluff's economy was built on paper mills, agriculture, and a now-closed military arsenal. When those industries downsized or disappeared, they left behind a population with no jobs and no prospects. The town has lost over 25% of its residents since 2000. Entire neighborhoods have been abandoned. What remains is a concentrated poverty rate exceeding 30% and a drug trade that's moved in to fill the economic vacuum. You buy the house, you get the crime for free. One brutally honest post read, "My grandmother refuses to leave Pine Bluff. She's lived there 60 years, but she sleeps in the hallway now because her bedroom faces the street, and bullets have come through twice. She's 78 and army crawls to the bathroom at night. This is not a joke." Crime aside, Pine Bluff is a healthcare desert. The main hospital has been on the brink of closure for years. The school district is one of the lowest performing in Arkansas. Flooding is a regular occurrence due to proximity to the Arkansas River and the job market. Unless you're commuting an hour to Little Rock, you're looking at minimum wage or unemployment. Picture this. You're sitting on your porch in Pine Bluff on a summer evening. The sunset is gorgeous pinks and oranges over cotton fields. Then you hear the pop-pop-pop that everyone pretends is fireworks, but nobody believes. A car speeds by, too fast, windows tinted, fast rattling your windows. You go inside, but you don't turn on the lights because you learned that makes your house a target. You eat cold leftovers in the dark, listening, always listening, because in Pine Bluff, relaxation is a luxury you can't afford. Would you risk $25,000 on a town where your odds of violent crime are higher than your odds of finding a good job? Yes, no, or only if the house comes with a bomb shelter? Drop your answer below. Next up, a Louisiana town so beautiful it hurts literally. Number 7, Monroe, Louisiana. Monroe, Louisiana is serving up Southern charm on a silver platter. Monroe, with a population of about 47,000, has a violent crime rate that's over 4 times the national average. The murder rate regularly places it among the top 20 most dangerous cities in America per capita. Property crime is equally brutal. Your odds of being a victim of theft or burglary are 1 in 17. Police resources are stretched thin, and certain neighborhoods have essentially become no-go zones after dark. That beautiful Greek revival, it might come with a view of a drug corner. Monroe's economy relies heavily on healthcare and a struggling retail sector. The median household income is around $31,000, well below the national average. Poverty affects nearly 30% of residents. When poverty concentrates, crime follows. The city has pockets of extreme wealth and extreme desperation, often within blocks of each other. That $45,000 mansion is cheap because it's surrounded by economic despair that shows no signs of improving. One local put it bluntly, "Monroe is gorgeous if you never leave your car. I'm serious. Drive through, admire the architecture, Keep driving. The second you park, you realize why everything's so cheap. My car got broken into 3 times in 1 month. The third time they left a note apologizing because there was nothing left to steal. Beyond crime, Monroe faces serious infrastructure issues. Roads are potholed into oblivion. The school system is perpetually underfunded. Flooding from the Wachita River is an annual threat. And Louisiana's heat and humidity? That beautiful old home is going to cost you $400 a month in AC bills and require constant battle against mold and termites. Your $45,000 purchase could easily demand $20,000 in repairs within the first year. Picture this. You've just closed on a stunning Victorian in Monroe. You're on the porch with sweet tea, watching fireflies, feeling like you've cracked the code. Then a neighbor walks over not to welcome you, but to warn you. Don't leave anything in your car. Don't answer the door after dark. Don't walk to the corner store alone. You laugh nervously. They don't. That night, you hear sirens. Lots of sirens. You learn that Southern charm and Southern crime are 2 sides of the same coin. Would you trade safety for a $45,000 mansion in a town where your neighbors give you survival tips? Yes, no, or only if I can install a moat. Comment below. But if Monroe scared you, wait until we hit Gary, the ghost town where hope goes to die. Number 6, Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana isn't selling you houses, it's begging you to take them. Gary has spent decades as one of the most violent cities in America per capita. With a population of around 69,000, the murder rate has at times exceeded 60 per 100,000, 10 times the national average. Violent crime is nearly 6 times higher than the U.S. average. Property crime is rampant because there's so much abandoned property that policing becomes impossible. Response times are abysmal. In some neighborhoods, police simply don't patrol anymore. Gary was built by U.S. Steel and died when U.S. Steel left. At its peak in the 1960s, Gary had nearly 180,000 residents and a thriving economy. Today, it's lost over 60% of that population. Entire neighborhoods look like post-apocalyptic movie sets, rows of abandoned homes, schools with trees growing through the roofs, shopping centers reclaimed by nature. The tax base has collapsed and the city can't afford basic services. That $1 house, it probably needs $100,000 in repairs, has $20,000 in back taxes, and sits on a block where you're the only occupied home. As one urban explorer wrote, went to Gary to photograph abandoned buildings. Got chased out by guys who definitely weren't welcoming tourists. Later found out the house I was photographing had been a crime scene 3 times in 2 years. Gary doesn't want visitors, Gary wants victims. Here is what the $1 price tag hides: back taxes that can exceed the home's value, liens from unpaid utilities, environmental contamination from decades of industrial pollution, and structures so decayed they're one storm away from collapse. Insurance is virtually impossible to get. Banks won't issue mortgages. You're paying cash for a crumbling liability in a city with no grocery stores, no functioning schools, and no future. Picture this. You buy a $1 house in Gary because you saw it on a YouTube video and thought you could flip it. You drive there for the first time. The GPS takes you past mile after mile of abandoned buildings. Graffiti covers everything. Windows are shattered or boarded. You pull up to your investment and realize the roof has already caved in. A stray dog stares at you from what used to be the living room. You don't even get out of the car. You just drive away. That dollar is gone, and so is your optimism. Would you gamble on a $1 house in a city that's been dying for 50 years? Yes, no, or only if someone pays me to take it. Let me know below. And if Gary is the ghost town, wait until you see Jackson, where the water might kill you before the crime does. Number 5, Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi is offering you Southern hospitality at Southern prices. A 4-bedroom colonial for $55,000, a charming craftsman for $40,000. We're talking tree-lined streets, historic neighborhoods, and the kind of soul food access that would make a celebrity chef weep. The state capital, a city of 150,000, is practically handing out homeownership. But there's a reason nobody's buying, and it's not just the crime. Jackson has become one of the murder capitals of America in 2021. The city's homicide rate hit 99 per 100,000 residents, higher than any major city in the country that year. Let me repeat that, 99 per 100,000. The national average is 6. Your odds of encountering violent crime in Jackson are approximately 1 in 44. Police staffing is critically low. The department has lost nearly 40% of its officers in recent years due to low pay and burnout. Response times in some areas now exceed an hour. Jackson's economy has been bleeding for decades. White flight in the 1970s and 80s hollowed out the tax base. Today, the median household income is around $37,000. And over 25% of residents live in poverty. But here's the kicker, the water system is failing. In 2022, The city's water treatment plant collapsed, leaving 150,000 residents without clean drinking water for weeks. Boil notices are now routine. You're not just buying a cheap house, you're buying into a city that can't provide basic utilities. One resident wrote, "I love Jackson. I was born here, but I can't tell you to move here with a straight face. Last month, my water came out brown for 3 days. Last week, there was a shooting 2 blocks from my house last year. My car got stolen from my driveway. We're not living, we're surviving." Beyond crime and water, Jackson's infrastructure is crumbling. Roads are destroyed. The school district was recently taken over by the state due to chronic failure. Flooding is a regular occurrence, and the political dysfunction is legendary. The city and state are locked in battles that ensure nothing gets fixed. Your $40,000 house might not have drinkable water, reliable power, or functioning sewers. Picture this: you've just bought a cute bungalow in Jackson. You turn on the tap to fill a pot for pasta, and the water that comes out is the color of rust. You've got a filter, but it's not rated for whatever this is. You boil it anyway, hoping that's enough. Outside, you hear gunshots, not distant, but close. Close enough that you turn off the kitchen light and stand very still. This is dinner in Jackson. Contaminated water and ambient gunfire. Bon appetit. Would you buy a $40,000 house in a city where the water might poison you and the police might never come? Yes, no, or only if Brita sponsors me? Share your thoughts below. Next up, Cleveland, where the $20,000 house is just the beginning of your problems. Number 4, Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio is neighborhoods where you can buy a house for $20,000, sometimes $15,000. We're talking solid brick construction, real basements, and the kind of bones that would cost $500. Zero in Brooklyn. Neighborhoods like Slavic Village, Glenville, and Mount Pleasant are filled with these deals. You could theoretically buy 3 houses for the price of 1 used truck. But there's a reason these homes are cheaper than furniture, and it's not just location. Cleveland's most affordable neighborhoods are also its most dangerous. The city's overall violent crime rate is 3 times the national average, but in specific zip codes, it's much worse. East Cleveland, technically a separate municipality, has a violent crime rate that's nearly 8 times the national average. Property crime, specifically theft and burglary, is epidemic. These aren't crimes of opportunity, they're organized. Copper thieves will strip an unoccupied house in a single night. Cleveland's cheap housing exists because of systematic disinvestment. When manufacturing left, wealth left with it. What remains are neighborhoods trapped in poverty cycles, with declining populations, abandoned homes, and infrastructure that nobody maintains. That $20,000 house might be next to 5 vacant properties that attract squatters, drug activity, and arson. And here's the brutal truth: copper thieves don't wait for you to leave. They watch new buyers, know when you're at work, and strip your house while you're gone. As one frustrated investor wrote, "Bought a $22,000 house in Slavic Village thinking I was smart. 3 months in, someone stole my hot water heater, then my furnace, then the copper wiring from inside the walls. Insurance wouldn't cover it because apparently theft by locals is an expected loss. I've spent $30,000 on a $22,000 house, and I still don't have heat." Beyond crime, Cleveland's cheap neighborhoods have other surprises. Lead paint in nearly every pre-1978 home. Lead service lines bringing water into the house. Property taxes that seem low, until you realize city services are essentially non-existent. And resale? Good luck. These homes often sit on the market for years because the buyer pool is other gamblers, like you. Picture this: you've bought your $20,000 dream home. You're proud, you're renovating. You spend a weekend at Home Depot, come back with supplies, and find your front door kicked in. Inside, the walls have been torn open, copper pipes gone, electrical wiring gone, even the outlet covers have been taken. A neighbor watches from across the street, but says nothing, they've seen this before. You stand in your gutted house, holding a receipt for drywall you can no longer install, wondering why nobody warned you. Would you buy a $20,000 house in a neighborhood where copper thieves work faster than contractors? Yes, no, or only if I hire 24/7's armed security? Let me know in the comments. And if Cleveland strippers scared you, I mean copper strippers, wait until you see Memphis. Number 3, Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee is the birthplace of rock and roll, the home of the blues, and the land of $50,000 houses with actual character. We're talking craftsman bungalows near Overton Park, brick ranches with big yards, and genuine Southern architecture that would cost $500,000 anywhere else. Elvis bought his first home here. You could too for the price of a luxury watch, but that watch might outlive you. Memphis consistently ranks among the most violent cities in America. With a population of around 630,000, the murder rate hovers around 30 per 100,000, 5 times the national average. Violent crime overall is nearly 4 times higher than the US average. Carjackings have become so common they've entered the local lexicon as a routine hazard. In 2022, Memphis saw over 300 homicides. That's nearly one per day. Bulletproof glass isn't included in your $50,000 purchase, but maybe it should be. Memphis has pockets of genuine wealth: Germantown, Collierville, the suburbs. But the city proper has been devastated by poverty, gang activity, and systematic neglect. Nearly 25% of residents live below the poverty line. The schools are struggling. The infrastructure is aging. And the affordable neighborhoods, the ones with the $50,000 houses, are often ground zero for the violence. You're not just buying cheap real estate, you're buying into a zip code that insurance companies refuse to cover. One Memphis native wrote, "I work in Midtown. It's got great bars, great food, real culture. It also has a shooting roughly every week. My coworker got carjacked at a gas station in broad daylight. The cops took a report and basically shrugged." Memphis is beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Crime aside, Memphis has its share of nonviolent problems. Flooding is common. Termites are aggressive. The summer heat is oppressive. And the job market, while better than some cities on this list, still lags national averages. Property taxes in Shelby County are relatively high for what you get. And home insurance, if you can get it, isn't cheap when insurers know the crime stats. Picture this. You've just moved to Memphis. You're excited Beale Street is 20 minutes away. The BBQ is incredible. And your mortgage is for $100 a month. One night, you're driving home from dinner when a car cuts you off and blocks your path. Two men approach your window. They're not asking for directions. Your heart pounds. You hand over your keys, your wallet, your phone. They drive away in your car. You stand on the sidewalk, alive but shaking, watching your taillights disappear into the Memphis night. Would you trade personal safety for $50,000 housing and access to the best BBQ in America? Yes, no, or only if I never leave my house after 6 p.m. Sound off in the comments. Next stop, Detroit, where the homes cost less than your iPhone and the risks are just as high. Number 2, Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan is the ultimate American paradox. The city is selling homes through its land bank for $1,000. $1,000 for a deed. Some auction houses go for even less. We're talking brick Tudors, colonial revivals, and historic homes that once housed auto executives, all available for less than a month's rent in any functional city. Detroit isn't offering deals, it's offering desperation wrapped in architectural beauty. Detroit's violent crime rate is nearly 5 times the national average. The murder rate, while improved from its horrific peaks in the 2000s, still hovers around 20 per 100,000, over 3 times the national average. Property crime is epidemic. Car theft, home burglary, and copper stripping are so common they're almost expected. Police response times average over an hour in some neighborhoods. In certain areas, the police don't come at all, they just take a report over the phone. Detroit is the most famous example of American urban collapse. At its peak, nearly 2 million people lived here. Today, it's around 620,000. That means there are more abandoned buildings than residents in some neighborhoods. The $1,000 land bank home comes with catches, back taxes that can exceed $10,000, mandatory renovation requirements you can't afford, and utility connections that haven't worked in years. You're not buying a house. You're buying a project that could bankrupt you. One land bank buyer shared, "I bought a house for $2,500 thinking I was a genius. 2 years and $60,000 later, I've got a habitable home, but no neighbors. The house next door burned down last month. Arson, probably. The cops didn't investigate." Detroit will humble you faster than you can say renovation budget. Beyond crime and cost, Detroit has infrastructure problems that would shock most Americans. Entire blocks lack functioning street lights. Water shutoffs for unpaid bills are aggressive. Schools have closed by the dozens. Grocery stores are scarce, many neighborhoods qualify as food deserts. And the property tax situation is Byzantine. Many of those cheap homes have been foreclosed and resold so many times that the title is clouded. Picture this. You've purchased your Detroit dream home, a gorgeous brick Tudor with stained glass windows, yours for $1,500. You start renovating, full of hope. One morning, you wake up to find your tools gone. Stolen overnight. You call the police. They say they'll send someone. No one comes. A week later, the house next door catches fire at 2 a.m. You stand in your yard, watching it burn, waiting for fire trucks. That take 45 minutes to arrive. By then, half the block's awake and watching. This is Detroit. Beautiful, broken, and burning. Would you gamble on a $1,000 house in a city where the fire department might not show up? Yes, no, or only if I'm also buying a fire extinguisher company. Let me know below. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the number 1 spot. The city's so dangerous, police departments have literally drawn lines around it. Number 1 street, Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri has some of the most beautiful residential architecture in America. We're talking red brick mansions, historic brownstones, and homes with original fireplaces, pocket doors, and craftsmanship that would cost $2 million in Boston. Here, $60,000. Maybe $50,000 if you're patient. The city's north side is an architectural museum with price tags that seem like typos. But those prices are accurate, and so are the murder statistics because St. Louis is, by many measures, the deadliest city in America. St. Louis regularly tops the list of most dangerous U.S. cities per capita. The murder rate has at times exceeded 60 per 100,000 residents, roughly 10 times the national average. Violent crime overall is nearly 5 times higher than the U.S. average. Certain neighborhoods on the north side have homicide rates that rival active conflict zones. The police department is understaffed by over 25%, and response times in high-crime areas can stretch past an hour. There are neighborhoods where even cops acknowledge they won't patrol at night. St. Louis's devastation is a story of white flight, deindustrialization, and systemic abandonment. When middle-class residents moved to the suburbs in the 1960s and 70s, they took the tax base with them. What remained was concentrated poverty, gang activity, and an infrastructure the city couldn't afford to maintain. The $60,000 mansions are cheap because they're in neighborhoods where shooting is so common. Residents learn to distinguish calibers by sound. You buy the house, you get the crime for free. One North St. Louis resident wrote, "I love this city. I hate what it's become. My grandfather built his house here in 1952. I inherited it. I can't sell it, and I'm afraid to live in it. Last year, there were for shootings on my block. My insurance got canceled because excessive claims in the area. I sleep in the basement now. The basement has no windows. Crime aside, St. Louis has brutal summers, aging infrastructure, and a city-county divide that creates political dysfunction at every level. Lead paint and lead pipes are endemic in older homes. The school system is perpetually struggling. Property taxes are high for what you get, and the city has one of the highest vacancy rates in the country. Your $60,000 mansion might be beautiful, but it's surrounded by abandoned shells. Picture this. You've closed on a stunning red brick mansion in North St. Louis. For bedrooms, original hardwood, a carriage house in the back. You're feeling triumphant. The first night, you hear a pop outside, then another, then a rapid succession, gunfire. You drop to the floor without thinking. The shooting lasts maybe 20 seconds, but it feels like forever. Then silence. You lie on the floor of your $60,000 dream home, breathing hard, staring at the original crown molding, and wondering if you just made the biggest mistake of your life. Would you buy a $60,000 mansion in a city where police have admitted certain areas are too dangerous to patrol? Yes, no, or only if I'm issued body armor at closing? Let me know in the comments. So there you have it. 10 American towns where the housing is cheap and the cost is your safety. From Danville's Rust Belt decay to St. Louis's beautiful war zone. These aren't deals that are traps baited with Zillow photos and low asking prices. The math doesn't add up because it's not supposed to. Cheap housing exists for a reason, and that reason is usually standing on the corner, sitting in a patrol car that never comes, or flowing brown through your kitchen tap. You want affordable housing, so do I. But not like this. Next time you see a $40,000 Victorian on Zillow, don't just check the photos. Check the crime stats. Check the response times. Check if your life insurance covers what you're about to walk into. Because in America's cheapest towns, the price you see isn't the price you pay. Stay safe out there.